that there's still also a gap in terms of access to service to digital services, both you know, from the low and middle income countries. Sorry, I was distracted by the recording that started. So yeah, so we're looking into those components to make sure that we are addressing adolescents' health and well-being, and this is why we are here. And this slide basically summarizes the importance of focusing on this population right now. Next slide, please. Now, the Global Forum for Adolescents, which is planned for September 2023, which also will be the PMNCH Partners Forum, will focus on advocacy at the global, regional, and country level. And the three main goals of the forum are, first, to scale up partner engagement and alignment for joint advocacy. So this will, using technology, will be uniting all the constituencies of PMNCH, the more than 1,000 partners that are involved right now in the partnership, to make sure that all the priorities, the strategies, the technical approaches are addressed during the summit or the forum in 2023. But we're also looking into focusing on how SRHR and maternal newborn child health are also linked with adolescents' health and well-being. And this is something that the board has also been very vocal during these past 2 days, of the need to also address these other two work streams that are part of the partnership. During the forum in 2023, we're also looking into showcasing the tremendous progress that has been made over this past few years since 2018, when the Global Consensus Statement of Meaningful Youth Engagement was launched during the last Partners Forum in New Delhi. We know that there's been some products that were developed as part of the process of the implementation of the consensus statement. So we're looking also into showcasing those new products. Now, the second objective of the forum will be to share the evidence, the knowledge, to power advocacy in an effective manner. This includes also sharing all the experiences, the good practices, the investment cases, and all these are related to the adolescents' well-being framework that was launched last year by PMNCH and partners. And finally, elevating the visibility and public attention for campaign goals. This will also be a follow-up of the Adolescents 2030 campaign and the call to action for adolescents' health and well-being. And at least if you are involved in social media, you may have seen that last week PMNCH launched this campaign, which is #Adolescents2030, and it is led by young people, and it also has a very strong component on seeing what well-being is for young people, how they define this, and how this actually affects their lives on a daily basis. And finally, we'll also be driving accountability for financing for adolescents' health and well-being as part of the third objective. And all of the things that I just mentioned are a follow-up of the recommendations from the Lancet Commission on Adolescent Health and Well-being, and also on the Lancet Commission on Governing Global Health Futures 2030. Next slide, please, Babia. Thanks. Now, how we see this forum becoming a reality. This will be a hybrid event. This will be a hybrid event that will be taking place both in person in New York. It will be on the sidelines of the UN SDG Summit and the UNGA High-Level Policy Dialogue on Adolescents' Health and Well-being, involving national and global policymakers. And at the virtual level, we're looking into country hubs and global hubs. Global hubs will be building on the successful Lives in the Balance e-summits, and also it will be held over 2 days, broadcasting the Global Adolescent Summit, including Country Partners Forum and new content. And also we're looking into country hubs, which will also be virtual. We're expecting up to 30 countries that could host Country Partners Forum for increased engagement at the country level. This could be before, during, and after the forum. And all these events will be live cast through the digital advocacy hubs with a robust social media engagement. All the things that I just mentioned will also be powered by the PMNCH digital advocacy hubs and the digital technology. This includes amplifying social media content and online content, translating all the things into local language, virtual global main stage linked to in-country events across regions, and finally, a massive participation with the full use of virtual stages. Next slide, please. Now, the timeline, and I have to say that the timeline is very ambitious, but I think that we will be able to achieve this. As Darren was mentioning before we started this meeting, by December 2021, which is right now, the board is agreeing on the approaches and the high-level recommendations on how to move forward the digital hubs and also the Global Forum for Adolescents. In January 2022, the work planning will start with the retreat that was also mentioned before. With the concrete outputs and the milestones set for the year. By February 2022, the executive committee will approve the work plan, including the things that are related to the forum and also the digital advocacy hubs that Caroline presented before before I started. By March 2022, we expect that the summit, the organizing committee will be established and holding their first meeting. And I have to say that the governance of this organizing committee is expected to include a member from PEC and a member from the strategic advocacy committee, and also it will be including a young person, of course, considering that this is something that related to youth. By March 2022 as well, we'll be launching the first digital advocacy hubs, 3 global and 3 initial ones at the country level. And the hubs will be also leading the forum planning. And finally, between April until December of next year, the implementation will continue from the committees, including the budget planning and the resource mobilization efforts. And in terms of the budget, the proposed budget that we're looking here is a very conservative budget of $3 million. However, given the scope and the ambition that I just mentioned before, including the translation, the virtual stages, and all the things that are related to inclusivity as well, I think that this will be a little bit higher, and I hope that we can address that during the discussion. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the questions for discussion, and I will hand it over back to Lisa, so you can guide us now, Lisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, David and Caroline. Ambitious timeline, and indeed, for those of you that've worked on the Partners Forum, we know it's quite a bit of work, and having a hybrid model that incorporates all of this will be very exciting. But also, we're really seeking your input. So we only have 15 minutes because we went behind schedule on the previous sessions. So really want to hear from you. So this first question, looking at the Global Forum for Adolescents, and if you can be very clear in which points you want to make, because we have rapporteurs, I think David is capturing it, and then that will be able to report back. What does success look like for a digitally powered Global Forum for Adolescents that is hybrid model? The floor is open.
Lisa, I have my hand up. I actually wanted to, I was going to address a different discussion question. So if you want to go in order, then I'll withdraw my hand for now.
Okay, yes, if we can start with the Global Forum, then go to digital, that would be great, just for consistency's sake. Thanks, Anne.
So are there more questions than these 3 in 15 minutes?
No, we cannot do this in 15 minutes, but let's just get started and with everybody's feedback. It was supposed to be 25 minutes, but you know how these things work. Okay, so let's start with Franca.
Keep it short. I think accessibility, to see that it can be accessed easily with different kinds of internet accessibility. I think that's really important by different people in different areas. Adolescence is quite an age range, so you have to take into account the age range of adolescents. We often make that into one group, but yeah, so that I would see it as success if you have a wide age range within the adolescents that are able to voice their opinions and voice themselves successfully through this process. They can access it well. That's just one thing.
Thanks, Franca. And can I ask a clarifying question as chair? By accessibility, do you also mean not only age and adolescence, but people with disabilities, that they can access it?
Thanks. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes,
great.
Of course. Yeah.
Thanks. Anshu?
Yeah, I must say I find it very difficult to provide an answer to these questions. But first of all, I just wanted to put on the table fully supportive of this partners forum that is a global forum for adolescents, let's say, so that's the main theme of it. I attended the World Health Summit a month ago or 6 weeks ago, which was a mixed one as well, both face-to-face as well as digital. And that was mainly, let's say, digital participation and potentially putting questions in. Now, here I'm not sure whether we're expecting more than that. So are we expecting some kind of discussion platforms that are digital, etc.? I would need some more information on really how this is going to work, etc., and what the feasibility is, etc. I think for me, the success will really be what is the outcome. So it's really how many countries are actually going to be engaged, and what are the what is going to come out of the SDG summit into this forum, and what will be taken forward through this forum. So it's not so much linked to the digital component to it. Just on the advocacy hubs, it was not clear to me how often those will take place, if they are moderated with support from a PMNCH staff member, was my understanding. On the budget, I would say it would be good to present a worked out budget. It's very difficult just to comment on that, but that would be useful, I think. And roadmap on other global events. Well, I think as part of the steering committee for what do we call it, David? And the partners.
The
reference group, etc. For this, there is a whole roadmap, and I think it's already quite spelled out. So yeah, okay. Thanks.
Great. So you've answered all the questions. Thank you, Anshu. We'll go to Pauline next. If we can stick to the first question, then I'll move on to the second question. So the Global Forum for Adolescents, what does success look like? We've heard about accessibility. We've heard about outcomes. We've heard about, do we need more than a chat box? Let's not just link it to digital, but also outcomes and quality. Pauline, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Maybe just really quickly, for me, when you think about success and we are using digital platforms, is also to think about bringing voices that otherwise would never really be found in a different setup. And here I'm contrasting between the world we had before 2020, where you had to physically be there, and now we have a world where you can actually bring voices that would never ever be on a table unless somebody really strategically decided to go and really find them and bring them onto the table. So having those voices for me would bring a level of success. I think the other thing is been partially touched on is the variety of formats that we use within the digital space to ensure the richness for engagement, and also to facilitate that variety of opinion. And then I have a question to this, and I just let me voice it so that we figure where it fits. How does this Youth Global Forum for Adolescents feed into the summit, the SDG summit, as well as the high-level policy forum? So the extent to which it can feed into those conversations of final decisions, also for me, that's an indicator of success. Thank you. Let me go video.
Okay. Thank you, Pauline. Many thanks for that. And your background looks great. Yeah, so very good points. Anne, your hand's up. Is it Global Forum for Adolescents?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you know, obviously the level of amplification that we get, and I think we should aim for the right balance between sort of global messages and country specific. And I know that the proposal, you know, linking it to the digital advocacy hubs, the plan is to have both global and country specific sort of platforms within those hubs. So I think, you know, you want, here is a case in terms of digital platforms where numbers do count, right? You want as much uptake as possible. And I think we want uptake here by numbers of youth organizations as well as individuals. And kind of, you know, thinking about, I guess thinking about the audience is critical to how we frame the messages that we put out there, but we also want to create that sense of momentum and engagement and honestly really have this kind of stuff taken up by active, you know, youth organizations and youth activists themselves, and kind of take and own the messages. But I do think, you know, I guess what I'm acknowledging is, to a certain extent, we're not going to be able to, we don't want to control it, but we want to be able to feed into it with some key priority messages around, you know, SRHR, around the mental health issues, around climate change issues, et cetera, to the extent that we can, by providing you know, key content, help to shape and encourage cohesion around those specific priorities that we have just identified. So those are some of the things that I'd be looking for from this. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you bring up a good point about country versus global. And, you know, there might be equity issues there in a hybrid event. So we need to take in account all of these, not just the voices, but what that hybrid mix looks like. We'll go with David on this question, and then we'll move to the second question. David?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, and just want to say quickly that I agree with all the comments that have been made before. In terms of how success looks for me for the forum, I would say that it might sound very, very basic, but actually having adolescents involved will be key for me. Because I mean, I think that we usually engage mostly with young people talking about like 19 to 30, but I do think that we have a gap in terms of engaging with actual adolescents, you know, like 14 or even below that. I mean, you know, like 12 or so. And I know that there are many parental like guardians and those kind of things that we have to address, but we can address them and we can actually engage with them, because it's a forum about adolescents and not young people actually. So it will be adolescents who should be actually involved in this, participating and also like leading the discussions. And that's one point. And the other point on Pauline's comment as well, I do think that whatever happens during this forum should be something that actually like informs any high level report or brief or anything that is the outcome of the UN high level dialogue. Because for example, at COP, we felt like civil society was like outside, like having amazing side events, like having private discussions, and the negotiations were somewhere else, like not having like any kind of connection. I think that is important to make sure that the outcome of the forum is actually meaningful. I want to say that.
Absolutely. And maybe setting targets for that level of participation for adolescents in the planning and leadership. Okay, only 5 minutes. Let's move to the next question. Digital advocacy hubs. How can they be used effectively for partner consultation and planning? If we can invite comments on these digital advocacy hubs, and also if you have questions, there seem to be some questions. So.
Yes, Sasa.
And I think that I'm going to try to mute Pauline. Can somebody mute Pauline, please? Thanks. And then Franca, go ahead. Your hand is up for this question.
Yeah, I actually have a question. Will there be a connection between the global advocacy hubs and the national ones, and how will that work?
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have the answers to these questions, maybe from PMNCH, or are we collecting the questions and then we can feed that back later?
Just to say, Hilma, I think it is of great importance that they are, because that will really kind of go help us to move through different levels and get from on the ground to global and back again. And that is where you get through discourse, I think, or through discussion. So that's why I was wondering.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100% with that, Franca, and I don't know the answer to that, but Mihail is on the call, and I don't know if he does, but if we don't, I think it's a point we should raise. I think it's an excellent point.
Great. Lori or Michal?
come in
Well,
and
I mean, there's lots to be said about this. I'm just worried about time, because we've got a couple of minutes. Lisa, how you want to do this, right? There's lots on the
Right.
operational side to be said.
Right, exactly. Okay, so there are a lot of questions about these digital advocacy hubs. So, but if we can take some additional comments on them, and I don't know if you had previously you had your hand up. I don't know if it was for question 2 or 3.
It was actually sort of a comment more about 3.
Okay.
So I mean, since we have limited time, maybe I'll just throw it in there. I do think, there is some of these. I've just been re-reviewing the concept notes, so some of this stuff is at least there's possible answers in there. So maybe we can read the concept note and then regroup in terms of questions. I think just one thing I really wanted to emphasize that relates to 3 is that we have I don't know any details, but Women Deliver will be happening in 2023, and we'll have a strong, as I understand it, youth and adolescent focus. Align PMNCH, I think is scheduled to have its first, I guess, big event in 2023, right? ICM is happening in 2023. And again, just coming back to this theme, we will get amplification if we amplify what others are doing. So I think building those really strong linkages starting now to do the outreach to the planning organizations for those hosting organizations for those events, and making sure that we make this forge as much as possible sort of an alignment around key messages, so that we are echoing and reinforcing each other without, of course, sounding like we're just mimicking. But I think it's some of it is just following each other and retweeting each other, but there is also a strategic element to this. So I think an explicit outreach to the PMNCH members who are involved in the planning of these and building those that aligned planning for these key events is going to be critical for impact.
Mm-hmm.
Over.
Yeah, excellent points, and multiple events happening in 2023. So
right, it's going to be
the
big.
linkages, as well as the amplification of the messages, and working together to amplify those messages. Any comments on 3? We're sort of skipping around because of this time.
Could I just say something, Hilma, there?
Yes, please.
I see many organizations, for example, as ICM, have had a discussion with Women Deliver about the different hubs and the advocacy hubs or global platforms, electronic platforms. All kinds of things are being built by many, many organizations to try to provide a space electronically where people can have all kinds of different interaction. I would really like to see a way in which we find some platform where we can share. The costs are extremely high, and why not share? And I could see PMNCH as the organization it is, that it does have a platform that you could literally kind of make ICM for a while, then you make it Women Deliver, then you make it different things at different times. I think that would be a really great way forward.
Yeah, very good points. And you also see a lot of good points in the chat. So David, I hope you're capturing them. And what work going forward, how will PMNCH connect with these other organizations that are building, and as a convener, utilize those digital advocacy hubs and those events for not only amplification of the PMNCH messages, but on the lead up to the global forum. We have maybe 2 minutes, okay. Are there additional questions or thoughts either on the digital advocacy hubs in terms of that planning for 2022, how they can be used effectively, since they're not really set up yet, but in the setting up and in the planning process and amplification with others?
Lisa, if I can come in a little bit about the linkages. So we've been having really interesting conversations with Align PMNCH, for instance, because they are building a knowledge hub around those issues. And we've said, well, why don't we collaborate and do this one together? Because what you're going to build will be of huge value to the global hub that we want in PMNCH, as well as those national hubs where those strands of evidence and experience are relevant. So we are on the road for that, and I think the same could be true of the SRHR and also the adolescents. So yeah, so frankly, very much take your point on that.
the direction of travel. And on the question of moderation, maybe just picking that one quickly. So this is partner-based moderation, not secretariat-based moderation, Anshu, to your question. So we are mapping expertise in the partnership to see who would like to take a moderating role within this. So already within the Knowledge and Evidence Working Group, there are mappings of expertise among members in those different domains, and we'll be doing the same with the other committees and working groups to see who wants to come forward for that. Linking this together at global and country level is going to be the key to how these things work. It won't be successful if they aren't linked in that way. And I think what's great about the Partners Forum is it's going to give us an opportunity to start doing that. So as we in 2022 start building the hubs, we start to source from those country hubs what the agenda should be for action in 2023, so that we are working in that sort of 18-month roadmap where we come to 2023 with an agenda for influence, where we've already been working on that for the SDG Summit, for the UHC review. And what happens in September 2023 is more a culmination of that. So everything that's led up to that through these different, so I think there'll be another Lives of the Balance Summit, for instance, in 2022, high-level political forum, accountability records, those will all be moments for that. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you very much. And I think once those are mapped out, we already have some mapping done, but insert some of the PMNCH opportunities to amplify these messages. And then how does the digital advocacy hubs, how do they, what is the timeline for that in amplifying the messages as well as leading up to the global forum? What is this with, what about privacy? Okay. And do you mean privacy in the digital?
Yeah,
Franca,
what I mean is that we are discussing issues that are extremely sensitive in many countries. And what if a young woman in a country where abortion is not possible talks about abortion on this global hub from her country? How does that work? I mean, these are all kinds of issues we need to take care of. It's very complex, I know, but we need to be aware of it.
No, absolutely. And I think when building any digital hub or digital platform, or even utilizing WhatsApp as a platform, security as well as safety and privacy have to be key, especially in countries where death and jail can be the outcome. So really great points. I think we're about to be whisked back to take our break, but is there any last parting comments? Pauline, I see your hand up.
I was going to say this really quickly. I think for me, one opportunity I also see is how do we use these hubs to help create a thread between the different global platforms and conversations, especially for adolescents and young people and partners at the country level, because once this is done, this is where the problem is, and